Sports. I'm your host. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media. Thank you for joining me. And I've got so much to get into. The national championship game, while it wasn't the end all be all, we're still going to dive into it and do a little comparison here coming up. The final college football coaches poll is always interesting, and yet we get some more head scratching somethings that turned out. I'll tell you what those somethings are as well. And then just the Atlanta Braves front office, they just continue to look smart again and again. And I'll tell you the latest example of that. And then I'm going to tell you about a little bit of a reality TV show. I'll get into that. And then flying home over the holidays, over the Christmas, New Year's break was a doozy. I'll tell you my story. Everyone's got one if they were anywhere flying to and from somewhere. And then we're going to get into NFL playoffs as well. But before we dive into all of that, let me tell you about my friends at Stream Studio. It is a multi-camera live streaming platform that allows you to go live in less than 1 minute. It is a video podcasting live webinar streaming platform that allows you to stream multiple platforms at the same time. Now, the national championship game, like I said, is was not a good game, obviously, at all. I mean, it pretty much from the jump, not a great game. Not super surprising to me, but it was not a good game at all. And to get things started, I really did like what Georgia did, getting Brock Bowers involved. 2 catches early on that first drive. Georgia scored that on that first touchdown. That first touchdown drive, it was really what you'd seen from Georgia in Athens all year long. So to see them do a national championship, their standard bread and butter, you're like, all right, yeah, sure, makes sense, of course. Then keep going back. You're watching this game, Georgia control it and dominating it for the most part the entire time. Then you watch and see what TCU's going to do, if there's really any chance for them to maybe be in this game and to win. You can't turn the ball over. And they did just that with 9:30 left in the first quarter. At that point, I'm like, okay, maybe TCU's still in this game. They don't quit because they held Georgia to only a field goal. And now that up to that point, Georgia's up 10-0. After that, it wasn't completely over yet, but I'd say before halftime, it was done. Definitely by halftime and starting the third quarter, obviously the game was a wrap. And just a few numbers to tell you how dominant Georgia was compared to TCU. They had 589 total yards compared to 188 from the Frogs. Georgia had 254 rushing yards to TCU's 36. They had 335 passing yards to 152 from the Horned Frogs. Georgia had 32 first downs. TCU only had 9. An entire game, they were held to single digits in first downs. Just how dominant they were all the way around. I mean, watching that game, Georgia was bigger, faster, stronger, better coached, better prepared, had a better game plan, offensively and defensively, all the way around. It was clear as simple as day. And they were ready. And there's really not much to talk about in this game other than dominant performance by Georgia. It's really what it's been all year. It's Okay, do I turn on the switch? Okay, I can turn it off. We got Oregon. Let's turn on the switch game one. Okay, taken care of. We got another big game in Tennessee at the time. Let's turn on that switch. Done. Okay. SEC championship game. Obviously, we're going to be up for that one. Turn on the switch from the go. The go. Boom. Now they had a dogfight against Ohio State, no doubt. They were able to pull it out and they won. I talked about that last week, but that was their game, biggest battle, biggest test, obviously all year, and then killing TCU in the national championship game. So that brings me to this. What's the most impressive season of the two championships? The 21 team or the 22 championship? Just a few things kind of comparing the 2021, 2022 championship seasons. Going into 2021, you had this question of who's my quarterback? Is it Stetson, who I'm not going to go into the story they told every single time Georgia's in a big game, and how many times, at least multiple times, I felt like on the national broadcast where every time they told the story about how Stetson got his start as a walk-on and as the backup quarterback, I feel like I need to take a shot. You would have been hammered probably by the third quarter if that happened. So I'm not getting into the details of that. You know the story. It's been told 900,000 times. But going into that season, you had Stetson and JT Daniels, your portal transfer 5-star quarterback coming in from Southern Cal. Figuring out the quarterback situation the entire season, the first few weeks. Daniels gets hurt, banged up a little bit, and it's Stetson's role, his turn. So you had that deal with in 2021. But you also had a stout personnel defense of studs defensively. You already know the amount of draft picks that were drafted on that defense and where they went. Incredible, impressive. Then, of course, the over the hump of the 1980 was the last time you won a national championship. That year, in 2021, you beat 4 ranked teams in the regular season, but you lost, obviously, the SEC championship game to Alabama. But then you turn right around and beat them in the playoff. So there's that. Compared to the 22 team, you have, obviously, undefeated season, back-to-back, potentially go back-to-back, very rare, very hard, not done very often. But then on the other end, you also knew your quarterback. It was, without a doubt, Stetson Bennett's my guy going out there to lead us. I know what he can do. I know what he can't do. On return, though, yeah, you had some blue chippers on defense, but you weren't quite sure exactly how they were after your star-studded defense the previous year. So that was a little bit of a question mark as a whole of what do you actually had. This year you only beat 2 ranked teams in Oregon and Tennessee. Of course, I'm not talking about LSU, and I wasn't talking about any of the teams in the playoffs both years. So that obviously that doesn't count. I'm talking about regular season. You only beat 2 ranked teams. So take that what you want with your schedule. But obviously you won the SEC championship very handily. You were able to survive and advance against Ohio State, which all that matters. You get to the big dance and you blow out TCU. So that's kind of where it lies. But to me, I think the most impressive of those 2 championships was the 2021 team. And here's why. what I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, the defense. The quarterback. What are you doing at quarterback? Is it Stetson? Is it JT Daniels? Okay, interesting enough, in that Clemson game, it was JT Daniels that had the most passing yards, not Stetson. It was JT Daniels, and you're like, okay, we only scored 10 points, but Daniels learned the offense under Tom Munkin, and he's our guy. Okay, that's what we expected. He's a 5-star. He's a transfer from Southern Cal. He's big. He's strong. He's got a big arm, not as mobile. But that's okay. He's our guy. Let's roll. Some of it, too, was learning what Stetson could and couldn't do during that season, of how confident, how comfortable they were with Stetson. And that's a big part of it, too. In the championship game, in the playoff championship games, it was a totally different swing as well. They won with Stetson at quarterback in 2021. They let the defense do the job. It's Stetson. Don't mess this up, okay? Stetson, don't mess this up. Be smart. 3rd and 10, if you only get 2 yards, a punt's okay. A punt is okay. We've got this great defense that can go shut down Alabama. We feel good about that. Whereas this year, then they knew what he could do. They knew what he can't do. They knew what Stetson's comfortable with. Obviously, too, it's Stetson's second year in the offense. He knew what he was doing, and they won because of him. That fourth quarter against Ohio State, impressive. Absolutely impressive. Stetson came in that fourth quarter, said, guys, let's go, get on my back. We're getting to the natty. And that's what they did. And that's what he did. Against TCU, it didn't matter. He could do whatever he wanted. But they won because of him, not with him. And then also the fact where I think 2021 is more impressive and bigger, they got over the Alabama hump of losing to them in the SEC championship game, beating them in the national championship game. It's the Nick Saban hovering over your shoulder, still the king, has a ton of national championships. You're just trying to get one. Kirby's trying to get his first one. Georgia's trying to get their first one since 1980. That, to me, is why 2021 is more impressive than the 2022 season, which, of course, is no doubt remarkable, them going undefeated. But just all those barriers and those humps and those issues is why I think 2021 is a whole lot more impressive than this year's. Before we get into my next thing, let me check with my friends at Stream Studio. It's a multi-camera live streaming platform that allows you to go live in less than a minute. It's a video podcasting live webinar streaming platform that allows you to stream to multiple platforms all at the same time. Now, the coaches poll just released their rankings from the USA Today, and it's one of those things you just always shake your head and say, what? And I'll get to that as Tennessee finished 6th, which, okay, sure, whatever. Not that these really polls, like I said, are really reliable, especially these days, if you ask me. I mean, them finishing 6th is one thing, but it's interesting as to who was ahead of them. Who was ahead of them? Georgia, obviously. TCU, sure, okay, that's fine. Michigan, okay, all right, yeah. Ohio State, sure. That's your top 4. Got it, fine. Who's number 5, you ask? I think you know the answer. It's Nick Saban in Alabama. And I don't know, I might have missed something this year, but I think Tennessee beat them on the field. I could be misremembering something. I know I've heard that phrase before, misremembering. Maybe that's what's happening right now. I'm not 100% sure, but that could be the case. Interesting enough, too, 43 coaches voted Alabama ahead of Tennessee at 5. And 12 coaches voted Tennessee to be 7th or lower. Some coaches who voted no, I guess obviously there's a bunch of coaches, but I would say the most notable, obviously Saban himself, and I guess when he was filling out his ballot, he wasn't prepared and he didn't execute correctly on when he was filling out the names, because I guess he doesn't remember what happened on the field. Also, Butch Jones, not the biggest surprise. He got fired from Tennessee, so obviously he might still have a little ill will. And oh yeah, who was he with previously as an offensive analyst? Oh yeah, that's right, Alabama. How could I forget? I mean, short memory. And then you get Grosciano, who obviously not surprised either why he might have voted for Alabama above Tennessee is because, of course, the whole he might have been the coach, and then they said no to him being the coach, and that's when they hired Josh Heupel. It's it. What are coaches polls? And another of note thing, which is also kind of cute. Guess where Nick Saban himself filled out Alabama in the coaches poll? Yep, second. I mean, yeah, put what you want. They're second according to him when they didn't even finish second in the SEC. That's something, that's just a little food for thought. So, coaches polls once again are obviously pointless, and coaches don't have time to watch other schools other than the opponents that they have coming up. They don't have time and they don't really care. I feel like it's just drawing names out of the hat of, oh, okay, we'll go Tennessee 6. Sure, why not? So what? Same thing with obviously preseason polls. But another thing with this coach's poll is at least, I'm sure there are probably more, but at least 12 coaches, at least 12, didn't rank TCU second. I mean, okay, generally if a team plays in the Natty, you rank them second. But the fact that 12 teams, at least 12 coaches ranked TCU not even second, that's very telling. But also in the same reverse form, Tennessee beat Alabama and Alabama ranked ahead of them. I don't know. Just some little things to think about and food for thought when it comes to rankings. Now, when it comes to rankings, once again, we're always comparing apples to apples. And that's where it comes with Rafael Devers signing with Boston, a great player, 11-year, $331 million contract. The Sox absolutely had to, I think, lock up Rafael Devers after Mookie got away a few years ago. You traded Mookie a few years ago. And then Xander Bogaerts, you didn't re-sign. So those are your three guys, Devers, Bogaerts, Mookie. You only want 1 for 3 in signing them, which is very surprising when it comes to Boston and their money and all that. Great player. I feel like you had to after both of them got away. The thing about this is, it's not as good as a deal as the Braves signed for Austin Riley. Riley, 10-year, $212 million contract. So that take him out till he's 36 years old when the contract's done. Think about that money difference for very comparable, similar players in their stage of Major League Baseball. Of course, Devers has a lot better numbers in a lot of your categories compared 4 years to 5 years. But the thing is, Austin Riley's really only had 2 full years in the big leagues where he played 160 games. Devers, basically 5 full years. But it just shows you Riley left more money on the table when he signed the deal. Obviously, probably would have made around that money, maybe more, if he waited out his arbitration years and got to free agency. But that's just the big thing. He wants to be in Atlanta. He set up himself and his family and his family's family for generations, generational wealth, generational money. And I heard this today. Matt Olson, obviously who the Braves locked up, was doing an interview. He goes, what's a couple million when you like when you're at, you're comfortable, and you're happy? What's a couple million? Yeah, now this is over almost $100 million. Excuse me, it's more than $100 million difference. That's more than a couple, but still. Think about, too, what the Braves did. They bought out some of Riley's free agency. They bought out his arbitration. Obviously, basically all of his free agency, but his arbitration. Braves bought out arbitration years to guarantee him some earlier money to play out the rest of his contract. It's what the Braves do. That's what they've been doing with these deals. And you create a culture with all these players of, look, I want to be here. I've got a great team around me. At that time when Riley signed, you already had Ronald Acuna locked up. You already had Ozzie Albies locked up. Matt Olson, I have to go back and double check. I want to say Matt Olson was done, and then Austin Riley. So you've got 3 studs locked up, then Austin Riley. You've got Max Fried for at least another 2 more years. I guess when he's signed, at least another 3 more years before free agency. You see what Kyle Wright has done and what Riley saw as Kyle Wright's done. You saw glimpses, and you've seen glimpses of what Spencer Strider's done. It's all there. And then what do the Braves go and do later on, earlier this offseason? Lock up Murphy. Buy out some of his free agency years. Guys want to be in a winning culture, a winning team, a chance to win a ring. In Atlanta, that at least, they're willing to maybe give up a few extra dollars for that chance, for liking their teammates, and for a chance to win a ring. So, once again, it just shows you the business acumen of Alex Anthopoulos and the front office in Atlanta. It's impressive, and it's very much been a trend of what the Braves have been doing. So I thought about this. This was during obviously college football bowl season. I was watching a little bit of this show when there weren't a lot of bowl games going on, or there were a few, but it's, you have 500 bowl games and half of them are crappy, and I wasn't watching a ton of them. And I was watching this show at The Amazing Race. I know you've all seen this, where it's 9 teams or is it 12 teams? No, it's 10 teams. Golly, I've already forgotten. Is it 10 or 12? I think it's 12 teams. Yeah, they start with 12 teams, a race around the world for $1 million. You have different stops along different countries. You got to catch plane rides and cabs to get where you're going, and then you complete checkpoints along the way. And I'm trying to rack my brain here. I'm like, okay, what sport does this most connect and relate to me? And as far as comparing to the sports end, to me, it's got to be Major League Baseball. And here's why. So obviously, Major League Baseball might go on a 7, 10 game road trip, play 3 straight days somewhere, every once in a while a 2 game series. But then that night, they're flying out, getting into wherever they're going late to get up the next afternoon and go play baseball. Same exact concept here for the Amazing Race. Like I said, these teams, these pairs have checkpoints where they're going around to watch, to compete on different tasks along the way. It's a race, it's a competition, and then they complete their task. They're done for the day. They check in, just like the Major League Baseball players. They finish their game. They get up. They go do it again tomorrow. Exact same thing in the Amazing Race. They do 2 or 3 tasks in each city. Then they fly to another city, or they travel a long distance via bus to another town in that same country to go complete the next task. They got to hit their timing. The sooner they complete the task, the sooner they can able to get to the next one. That's why it's, to me, like Major League Baseball. Not like the NBA, where it's 1 game on, 2 games off, 2 days off. NFL, obviously, 1 game on a week. NHL, same similar way. So very much different than the other three. So that's kind of my connection to the Amazing Race of Major League Baseball. Now, if anyone was traveling over Christmas or New Year's, I'm sure you had an issue with a flight. If you didn't, that's awesome. But me, boy, did I. So I was flying home to Atlanta. I didn't have any problems. On the way back, totally different story. Supposed to leave at 7:30. Got pushed back. I was checking the app. Okay, 8:45. All right, sure, no big deal. Check the app again. 9:15. Huh. It's not ideal, but okay. All right. Let's go. Get to the airport. I don't leave until about 10:45. And one thing so finally get the board. So that was a fun little wait. Said no one at the airport. So I did learn something though about people, and I don't understand people and what they're thinking and what they do. So finally get to board the plane, and I'm in my seat, and we're getting ready for takeoff. And I'm originally in the middle seat, and no one came to the aisle seat. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going over the aisle, go give myself some room, obviously. And I look over to the guy sitting next to the window, and this blows my mind. Never in my life have I seen someone on an airplane pull out fingernail clippers and start clipping his nails. Yes, he was clipping his nails. First off, I didn't know you could get nail clippers through your carry-on bag. Maybe they were the small ones. I'm guessing I would figure those would be considered a weapon. So I learned something on that end, but I also didn't want to learn it because he pulls them out and starts clipping his nails. I'm like, thank goodness I slid over to the aisle seat while he's clipping his nails. I'm like, I was blown away. I wanted to say something to the guy, but I didn't. So there was that. And then also one other thing I learned while I was flying on this flight. I won't say the airline, but they're coming around. I'm like, all right, good. I was thirsty. It's like, finally, they're coming around to give us, our complimentary snack and our drink. Well, they're coming along, and I hear them. I'm listening to headphones. I'll probably listen to a podcast. I think I was, and they're coming along, and I see they're getting close. So I'm, getting prepared, getting ready to give them my, what I wanted to drink. So I'm taking off my headphones, and I overhear them saying, "Yes, drinks for purchase." It's like, wait a minute, huh? And no, she wasn't talking about your vodkas and that sort of thing. She was talking about your regular Cokes, your ginger ales, $4 to purchase one of those. I about fell out of the chair into the aisle. So obviously, for a hour and a half flight, I was parched the entire way home on the flight. So that's like my two things I learned. Well, three things. If you just the understanding of how I can't comprehend how someone would actually decide to clip their nails in public with on a flight. So that's the three things I learned over the holiday, Christmas, New Year's travel time. And I don't fly a lot. I'd say between work and going home 3, 4, 5 times a year. So it's not like it's all the time flying. And that was the first time I've ever seen it. Blew my mind. Now, something that makes my mind ease a little bit is the NFL playoffs and fun matchups. So, well, I'd say first round will obviously all throughout the playoffs. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about them. Some interesting matchups. Jags and Bolts, the Chargers, the 4-5 could be a fun matchup with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert squaring off, going up against each other. You have the 6-3 on the same side as well. You got Baltimore and Cincinnati. It's come out today that Lamar Jackson will not be playing, more than likely. I think they might have officially ruled him out. I have to double check that, but they're leaning towards him not playing. So that's unfortunate. You love to see a Burrow Lamar Jackson matchup squared off. And then unfortunately, we're not going to get to see Tua square off against the Bills, which that would have been a more enticing matchup to see Tua going against Josh Allen. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that. Other side, of course, we got Kansas City sitting there the 1 seed with the bye, waiting to see what happens and where these teams all shake out. Other side, you got the Eagles as the number 1 seed, so they're at home just chilling, watching this round of the playoffs. This one, not so much. I'm not as exciting or as fascinated with this one. You got old man Tom Brady squaring off against the Cowboys and Dak. Of course, it's a Sunday night game. I mean, why the night game. I can't. Of course it is with Bucks Cowboys. So what? I am kind of interested in this one in Kirk Cousins scoring off against the G-Men as a 3 seed. See what he can do. So that's funny. And then the number 7-2 matchup on the other side as well. You got San Francisco with Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, at the helm under center for the 49ers, he's played pretty darn well in his limited time and starts. And then who would have said Geno Smith is leading the Seahawks to the playoffs? So another not as exciting playoff matchup, quarterback matchup in that realm. And it's going to be funny. That's probably going to be one of those best games. It's not going to be your two quarterbacks like a Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert. Obviously, I hope it is. I hope that's a good game. I'm really looking forward to that one. But for whatever reason, because it's football, that's going to be like the blowout game on one side or the other. And it's going to be Brock Purdy and Geno Smith with a shootout back and forth game just because. I don't know but that's just how sometimes things work out. And as I say, that's sports. So with that, thanks for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media. You can find me on all the sites: Apple, Spotify, Google. I'm there. Find me. Lock It Down Sports. Appreciate it. Have a good night.